Hello, everybody. Welcome to this keynote for the Product Owner Summit 2023. We have with us an old friend and, of course, awesome Agilist that many of you will know, Henrik Kniberg. Hey, Henrik.
Hello.
Welcome.
It's good to be here or there or wherever we are.
Everywhere, right?
We're everywhere.
It's the beauty of online. So quick intro. I first heard of Henrik when I read his first book, Scrum and XP from the Trenches. That was way back in 2007. But that was just one of several books that Henrik wrote. And many of you might know him actually much better from his YouTube channel, where he's published some famous work, not the least of which, the Spotify model, which took a life of its own. And these days it's used to justify basically about anything in many companies out there. His video on the Spotify model had, at the time that I checked, already more than 750,000 views. I mean, we could probably safely say that that might be one of the most viewed Agile videos out there. So it's a pleasure to have you here, Henrik.
Thanks. It's good to be here.
So let's start with your origin story, because of course you became famous many years after you started working in the field of software development and agile software development. And I knew you from the consulting world, when you worked at CRISP in Stockholm, Sweden. But tell us a bit more. How did you get started with the whole agile journey?
I guess probably like most people, I kind of stumbled into it. So it's true that I was working for quite a while as a developer and entrepreneur before I came across Agile. But I guess the pivotal moment was when I had a startup and I was suddenly a manager and I was hiring people and I had a team. So I had to understand this thing called leadership. And I was no longer going to be the guy writing all the code. So I needed to understand, how do we organize the work? And I had been, as a consultant, I had been in a bunch of big projects as one developer in an ocean of, waterfall, and seen big failures repeatedly. So I was a little bit like cynical. I had learned a lot about how not to build products, but I wasn't quite sure what is a better way. And now I had my own company. I had skin in the game. I wanted to succeed. So I knew I didn't want to do waterfall, although I didn't know I didn't call it at the time, but that's what it was. So I looked around kind of online, like, are there any companies that actually do good product development? Where are the success stories? Give them to me. And then I stumbled over this wiki called the C3 Wiki, which is a bunch of people that later on came up to create Agile, people like Kent Beck and Ron Jeffries, Ward Cunningham, where they were sharing knowledge, patterns for, what are some things that they see working, things like pair programming and test-driven development. And when I found that, I was like kind of mind blown, like, this just makes sense. It seems so much more sensible a way of working than what I'd seen before. So I just became a practitioner. I showed it to my team and we're like, hey, should we try this? We have more to win than to lose, so let's try. And then we basically figured, it worked, basically. It worked a lot better. So we were happy. It was more fun to go to work. We built better stuff faster. And of course, it's not a silver bullet. We, of course, sometimes also would fail. But when we failed with products, they would fail faster and cheaper. And sometimes we could turn a failure into success by iterating. So I was bought into it as a practitioner. And then later on, these same people came to create this thing we call Agile and Agile Manifesto. So I started basically with extreme programming, and then later on discovered Scrum, and to me, these complement each other quite nicely. But then later on in my consulting work, I started becoming somewhat known among my clients as a person who likes to think a bit about how do we work. So they would bring me in not just as a coder, but as someone who actually helps sort out our process. And then through that, I ended up at a very interesting gaming company in Stockholm and learned a lot during that process as an interim CTO. And my head was exploding with the learnings. I needed to get it out. So then I sat down and I wrote an article just dumping everything I learned. And that article became too long, so it became a short book. And that's, I guess, the book that you found. And then after that, people started calling me and say, hey, Henrik, can you help us do this Agile thing? And that's kind of how I stumbled into that world.
Absolutely. And Agile has a lot of, these days especially, it has entered a lot of aspects of product development and even outside product, also in service and service delivery. And we're talking about product ownership here, and we want to talk to product owners, and of course all of us who work with product owners, hopefully inspire product owners and agilists